Hello and welcome to Keep Right On. I'm Brian Dick and I'm joined by our Birmingham City reporter, Alex Dicken. How you doing, Alex?
Good, thank you, Brian, during this jam-packed international break.
It hasn't quite been as packed with jam as we'd hoped it would be, but you seem to have A, returned from holiday, and B, just about found enough work for you to keep yourself busy. Welcome everyone to listening to joining us. We're going to run through a few things. The international break, looking at the Blues goalkeeper situation, the latest with injuries. We're both going to be picking an 11 to face Wrexham. Might be a bit of PSR talk in there as well, or FFP. And also a look ahead at the next 5 games that follow when we resume on Monday. So, Alex, should we start with the internationals? There's Blues have had 4 players away, haven't they?
Yes.
Starting with Bailey Peacock-Farrell, 2 Icelanders, Alphonse Samsted and Willem Thor Willemsen, and poor Lyndon Dykes, who must be suffering whiplash, going from facing Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo back to a League One fixture. How have they got on?
Yeah, so I've just got them up now, so I don't get any wrong. Northern Ireland, Bailey Peacock-Farrell has pretty much cemented his place as their number 1. We'll start with him. They obviously beat Luxembourg 2-0 in their first game on the 5th September and lost 1-0 to Bulgaria on Sunday. With a Peacock-Farrell error in that game, it must be said. Obviously, he's come under a little bit of pressure in the last 2 games for Blues with that error, big error against Wigan, where the ball kind of went through him, and obviously there was that playing out error against Leyton Orient, which led to a goal. Brian, I don't know whether you want to come into it straight away as we're talking about Peacock-Farrell. It kind of seems silly to go on to the other internationals before addressing this topic. Do we think he's under pressure at Blues now? Not necessarily because he's made a mistake for Northern Ireland, but because of the last 2 games for Blues.
So we spoke about this on a previous podcast, didn't we? About I think Chris Davies will potentially view the errors differently. The Leyton Orient error where he got caught playing out or trying to play out, which Davies said afterwards. He would encourage. That's what he's asking Peacock-Farrell to do, and he's mindful of the likelihood of risks and maybe conceding the odd goal there. So I don't know that would weigh too heavily on Chris Davies's mind. I don't think Chris Davies, again, will be that bothered about what's happened with Northern Ireland.
Agreed.
I know there was a huge amount of criticism about the pitch that Michael O'Neill's men played on in Plovdiv. Indeed, I think he said it was not fit for international football, and I know Peacock-Farrell's teammate Dan Ballard spoke about the pitch as well, criticising it. I guess what you would say is the decision wasn't great. If the pitch is difficult, then even if you've been asked to play out, then maybe, was that the manager's decision, or should Peacock-Farrell have sort of bypassed that and just hoofed it? Hindsight would say yes. I suppose the one worry about that is, does it erode his confidence? That's one thing with the goalkeeper. And the other issue would be the goal against Wigan, which was, it was a flat-out goalkeeping error, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we both said you've got 2 very different goalkeepers at Blues, haven't you? You've got 2 that are probably quite comfortable with their feet, but I think one's outstanding with his feet. And then you've got probably Peacock-Farrell's, in the eyes of many, slightly more accomplished with his hands. So Chris Davies obviously started the season with the person he perceives to be the strong goalkeeper. What Peacock-Farrell then can't do is make those errors with his hands like he did against Wigan. I think that's obviously a big thing, First and foremost, well, not first and foremost, but they have got to be good with their feet. And Allsop does have the edge in that, and Blues are having a lot of possession. I looked earlier, I think it's like 68% possession they're averaging in League One fixtures. So if they are going to have that much of the ball and the goalkeeper's not going to be needed to use his hands an awful lot, it does beg the question as to whether Allsop would be the better suited for the way that Blues are playing. We saw against Walsall his distribution in terms of the way he zips passes out to the right back or the left back is really impressive. Those kind of playing out passes. I wasn't as impressed with his passes, his long balls when he was kind of trying to spark a quick counter attack and was over hitting passes, and you could see that Chris Davies was frustrated with how quickly he tried to do things at times. But I do think if Peacock-Farrell, I think he'll stay in goal for the Wrexham game. But if he does continue or make more errors with his hands, then it's quite clear that you can't have someone like Allsop sitting on the bench and not getting a look in when the goalkeeper who's playing is making errors.
So what would you do then? You pose the question, answer it then. Would you change or not?
I'd keep him in for now, but I think if there's another error quickly with his hands or even with his feet, to be honest, because you can't keep giving away goals with your feet. I know Chris Davies wants to play out, but he doesn't want Blues to concede goals through playing out. I'd keep him in for now because I think he's had 4 League One games. It's not consistent run, is it? But if you get to 10 games and there's a couple more errors in there, or even if there's a couple of errors in the next few games, I'd make a change, to be honest. I think you've got too strong a goalkeeping unit to have one, a player like Allsop and say you are number 2, because it's supposed to be a live competition, isn't it? That's what we were kind of sold in the summer. And that's probably obviously what Ryan Allsop was sold. So you can't have the goalkeeper making errors and then not make a change. Chris Davies has shown a real ruthless streak, so I have no doubt that he will make that change if it comes to it.
Yeah, I think I would go with staying as we are just for now. Yes, Davies has asked Peacock-Farrell to play out, and indeed Allsop as well. And I don't think it would send a good message if you immediately drop somebody on, because they've made one error playing out and then another error on a difficult pitch at international level. I think they need more. They need to feel that their manager has more faith in them than that. The Wigan goal, when it squirmed through his grasp, I think we just have to chalk that one up. But so for me, it's just about on the stay as we are side. But it is getting closer. And I think back to a time, I think it was under Pep Clotet, when Lee Camp was in goal and he lost his place and Connell Truman came in for 7 or 8 games. And that was really quite destabilising. Camp did need to be dropped, but then Truman came in and then he wasn't great either. Then Camp came back in after another 8 games, and it was all a bit... I felt it put a lot of pressure on the defenders, having to adapt to different goalkeepers. So it's of all the positions on the pitch, I think this is the one that you really don't take a light decision on, and I think you make that change almost as a last resort when it becomes untenable. And it's, for me, it's not untenable at the moment. So
no, I agree.
We've got the other internationals. Obviously, Dykes played against Portugal, didn't he? He played, I think, 70 odd minutes in the 3-2, heartbreaking 3-2 home loss to Poland, and then another 70 odd minutes against Portugal. Scotland were 1-0 up and then ended up succumbing to the 901st goal of Cristiano Ronaldo's career. So quite an experience for Dykes in the Stadium of Light there. And then we've got the 2 Icelandic guys, Alphonse Samsted and Willem Willemsen, who I think they played bit parts, didn't they? Didn't Samsted play the first game?
Samsted did. He played the first game when Iceland beat Montenegro 2-0. He played the full 90 in that one. Willemsen was a sub in that one. And I'm just looking now just to make sure, but Samsted didn't play at all in the second one when they lost to Turkey 3-1. And Willemsen again substitute. So both played bit parts. Crucially for Blues, Samsted, who obviously now we think is going to get an extended run in the team with Ethan Laird out injured, didn't play at all in that second one. So he's had a bit of a recovery or a rest before that game for Blues against Wrexham on Monday.
Yeah, so what have you made of Samsted so far? I don't think he's had a start. Am I right in saying he hasn't had a start? I don't think he has yet, has he?
No. He hasn't. So he would have started against Walsall, wouldn't he?
Yeah. So it's kind of difficult because he's coming on the sub, and as you know, our heads are down by the time Alphonse Samsted's been on the pitch, and it's very difficult to watch the game because we're sort of filing copy and getting things ready for the deadline, which is the final whistle. So it's very difficult to be overly analytical of what Alphonse Samsted has done so far. But do you have any impressions?
Yeah, I mean the most I saw him was against Charlton. You had obviously seen him more against Wigan, but I was quite impressed against Charlton for his first game in England. He'd only been with Blues for I think a couple of days. At that point, it was a very quick turnaround. He came on for Ethan Laird for the final 25 minutes and looked really solid. A lot of energy getting up and down the right flank, which is obviously what Blues need because their in possession shape demands that from the right back. We didn't really get to, I didn't get to see him in the final third in terms of his quality and his cutbacks. We'll see that more now he gets an extended run of the team, but I think he looks a good player. He wouldn't play for Iceland as a starting right back. I know they're a smaller nation, but he wouldn't play for Iceland as a starting right back if he wasn't a solid player. He wouldn't get a move to a big Dutch club in FC20 if he wasn't a good player. And obviously we know all about his Europa League exploits with his previous club before he joined Twente. So he looks a good player on paper. He sounds a good player. When you speak to people who've watched him in Holland, they've been quite impressed with him. So I don't think he'd have joined Blues on the bench, to be honest, as well. A player with that kind of pedigree. So I expect him to take his chance. Now he's got it.
I wonder when the recruitment staff was selling Blues to Samsted, whether Ethan Laird's availability statistics might have come into the conversation. And indeed, if they did, then that's proved to be prescient, hasn't it? From my impressions, he seems to get forward very willingly, a very energetic runner, good on the ball. I spoke to a Blues player after the Wigan game, and he said, he's not quite sure about him defensively. And he is quite slight. And I wonder if that might be targeted in terms of diagonals from opposition centre-backs. But at the moment, given the fact, as you said, Blues were going to be having so much of the ball, you appear to have a good technical, energetic, and quite sort of ambitious and adventurous stand-in for Ethan Laird. So strength in depth coming there. There's not a way in the world in my mind that Blues start Taylor Gardner-Hickman in that role against Wrexham.
No, and the key for Sam for me to keep placing the team long term is to show better quality than Laird has in the final third. When he gets into those positions, which he will because the way Blues play, he needs to find the cutbacks to Alfie May, Jay Stansfield, Willemse, and actually get assists to his name rather than just cross attempts.
Yeah, indeed. Shall we come on to the 11s that we would pick for Wrexham then, Alex? I think you've just done a piece. You've just done a piece on this, haven't you? So. Formation and players, go on.
I've gone slightly different to you. So 4-2-3-1, although as we know, I don't really like to tie myself to a formation with Chris Davies. Peacock-Farrell keeps the shirt for me. Samsted, Clara, Bailey, Cochrane, Peck and Leonard in midfield. Stansfield off the right. Willemse in the 10. And I've gone for Emil Hansen left with Alfie May up front. Do you want me to explain that, or do you want to do yours first?
So, I mean, mine's the same. Pretty much this probably works best, I think, if we come on to the bits where we differ. So, Peacock-Farrell, as we said, keeps his place for me. The defence, picks itself. Samsted, Clara, Bielik, Cochrane. I've gone Peck and Leonard in midfield as well. That's one thing I want to talk about because obviously Iwata is there and Gardner-Hickman as well. So we'll have a quick chat about why we've done that. The attacking three, I've gone Willemse as the 10. I've gone Scott Wright on the right and Stansfield on the left. And that'll be the second point we'll talk about. And then Alfie May up front as well. So was it even a debate for you what to do in the double pivot, if that's what it turns out to be? Obviously, Peck could end up going further forward. Those two central midfielders, Peck and Leonard, was it even a debate? Did You've been benighted.
I have been. I'm in the wellness room here at our office, and they have turned the light on me. Very well. I think you can just about see me now. So not on the one performance, Brian. It wasn't a debate for me. I'm quite happy with Mark Leonard to keep his place alongside Peck. Iwata did very well second half against Walsall, but I wouldn't be bringing him in on the strength of that performance. I think Mark Leonard's got a little more credit in the bank, so I'd keep him in.
Yeah, same. I think to lose a shirt, you have to have done something wrong. And, Leonard to me has been in the top 2 or 3 best players for Blues so far this season.
Yeah.
And Peck, we're waiting for Peck to sort of dominate a game. Maybe he's a bit more understated than that. Maybe he's not going to be, the conductor, the deep line midfielder who's absolutely going to instigate everything and break up everything. I think if you do watch him, he's just really, really neat and tidy, isn't he? And he can get forward, and he has got that little bit of quality with those dinks into the box. I know everyone at the Blues is excited. Certainly the recruitment staff are excited about Tomoko Iwata. But for me, it's Peck and Leonard deserve the opportunity to carry on.
Brian, on Peck, do you think we judge him a little bit unfairly because of what we
potentially?
expect?
Yeah. I think that is fair. I've kind of reined it in a little bit with Peck in the last sort of couple of games and just tried to look at not what he doesn't bring, but what he does bring. And what primarily for me, what he does bring is really sensible use of the ball. So yeah, I think we probably have it. I expected the wrong things from him, I would say.
Yeah, when you've got a South Korea international in League One, you kind of expect him just absolutely rip it to shreds and walk through defences. But Chris Davies does not want him to play like that quite clearly. So yeah, I'm gonna start trying to judge Peck more fairly now as well. The other difference, Brian, one difference in the front 4 we've got is you've gone Scott Wright on the right and I've gone Emil Hansen on the left with Stansfield on the right.
Yeah, I feel there's more balance. I feel Stansfield would be happier on the left. And Wright is obviously more of a right winger. That feels a slightly better balance to me. I think if Stansfield would play on the right, the tendency would be to come in on the left, on his left foot, and it would maybe get a little bit congested with Willemsen and May there. I think the threat of him going on the outside on his left foot, if he were to play on the left, would generate a bit more space. And if he were able to do that, then maybe Cochrane wouldn't have to be the width on the left in the way that Laird or Samstead will potentially be on the right. So I've said before, I've not been blown away yet by Scott Wright, but I just think because of it's more of a natural fit, round pegs in round holes. That's why I've gone for it. What you clearly disagree?
Yeah, no, I would say it is. Stansfield's probably a more natural on the left than he would be on the right. However, in this particular system that Chris Davies plays, having possession, the left winger is required to play very wide and high on the left. And I don't know whether that would suit Stansfield. I think it probably suits Hansen quite more. I've said a couple of times, Hansen's very much a system player, isn't he? He fits it out on the left there. And I just think he'd give you that natural width, and it would waste Stansfield if you said to him, you've got to fit the system. You've got to go and play out on the left and play as a natural left winger and hug the touchline. If you play him on the right, although, he's not, it doesn't look like a natural right winger to me at all. But if you play him there, because of the natural width the right back is expected to provide in this system, it would instantly allow Stansfield to come inside every single time Blues have the ball. So, as I said before, Blues are averaging like 68% possession in League One games. They've got the ball pretty much all the time. So Stansfield would essentially be playing as a number 10 in the centre or as an extra striker alongside Alfie May. And we know May likes to drop deep, so it would allow Stansfield to take up that position when when Blues are in possession.
Yeah, fair points. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Alex and I, just a slight difference on the identities and the roles of the two wingers, we'll call them, or the two wide attackers. But I think we've got both got Alfie May up front, even though Chris Davies after the Walsall game, he said that he sees Jay as an off-the-shoulder, classic sort of running behind number 9, didn't he? So we've both gone against what Chris May has actually told us in that press conference.
But that's us trying to second guess him, isn't it? Because we know how kind of strange and different and quirky the system is, and how different Blues look when they're in and out of possession. So I don't see why Stansfield, to work around May and fit May into the same system, couldn't play as a right winger or a left winger, and then come inside when Blues have the ball and take up that 9 position. Because we've seen throughout this season already, Alfie May is not a fixed number 9. He moves around all the time. So there's no reason why when Blues have the ball, Alfie May couldn't then go and take up, Jay Stansfield couldn't then go and take up that position as a central striker and play off the shoulder like Chris Davies wants him to.
Yeah, it seems slightly counterintuitive, didn't it, against Walsall to play May deeper than Stansfield, particularly when May had so much success there, and when Stansfield has repeatedly said that he sees himself more as a deeper lying role. Everyone wants to play in space these days, don't they, Alex? So yeah, interesting. It'll be good. It will be really interesting to see how Chris Davies sort of squares that circle. There's been a lot of talk about transfer fees. I suppose it's the international break, and the people have sort of, the devil's made work for light hands a little bit, hasn't it? With a focus on the amount of money Blues have spent in the transfer window. You and I both ended up watching Tom Wagner's video, didn't we, from the open house I think it was in April, I think it was in April, when he discussed about the investment. Obviously, at that point, he thought Blues were going to be in the Championship still. They obviously ended up going down, but he was very bullish about the investment and what was going to be spent. So yeah, what have you made of the discussion around Blues spending? We've got pundits like Don Goodman saying that the Stansfield fee was, I can't remember, he didn't say ludicrous, but he said it was way over the top, didn't he?
Yeah.
What have you made just around the public discourse around Blues spending?
I mean, the Stansfield fee, I think we'll both say was probably over the odds. I think we can agree on that and say that Blues probably went higher than they initially wanted to. I think when talks first started, we're talking like a 5 to 6 million, probably sounded fair to us. And then all of a sudden it's in excess of 10 million. You're like, okay, they've gone quite high here. But it was quite clear that Blues had signals that Jay Stansfield wanted to come back to Birmingham City, and fair play, they made it happen. They did everything they could to make it happen. As far as we're aware, it's not the 15 million plus 5 million fee that has been quoted. It's underneath that, and time will only tell whether it's a sound investment. Blues have given him a 7-year contract, so they're going to build around him for the next number of years. He's a player that St Andrews absolutely adores, so I'm sure it's going to work. Stansfield, when Blues get into the Championship, is that ready-made striker. I keep saying when, sorry, Brian, it's going to happen eventually, whether it's this year, next, or the year after, whatever. But he is that ready-made striker for that league. We've seen that already. I have no issue with it. If I don't really care what Tom Wagner spends his money on, to be honest. If it's for the greater good of Birmingham City and we will get to watch better football, then that's absolutely fantastic. So I have no issue with it. I mean, the only problem could come, I suppose, is that when Blues get back to the Championship, the money they've spent this year will then obviously be factored in to that £41 million loss that Championship clubs can have over 3 years. So Blues will obviously have to be mindful of what they spend from there on to make sure they comply with those rules. But as long as Blues are within the rules and competing, which Tom Wagner said in that open house in April, that they'll be driving and creating enough revenue to be able to compete with even the clubs that are getting parachute payments when they're in the Championship, then, great. I'm all for Birmingham City having more money to spend. It's been, far too long. The club has been kind of at the scraping the bottom of the barrel for free agents and loan players. And now the club's spending money. Everyone's kind of been negative about it. So,
Blues fans aren't being negative. It's
exactly.
Important to say that. And if Blues don't go up, I just want to draw a line in the sand at this point and say that Alex Dicken is the arch tempter of fate. He will continuously use when and not if. Well, I suppose the point you make about eventually they will.
Everything's when, Brian. Everything's when.
The one contribution I would make to the PSR situation is obviously there's a thing called amortization, which is whether the cost of a transfer is spread over the length of a contract. So let's say Stansfield, plucking a number here for mathematical ease, cost 14 million on a 7-year contract. That would work out at 2 million a year on the. Why are you laughing? Have I got that wrong?
You picked the easiest number there, didn't you, for 7-year contract? Divided by 2.
Indeed. And to counterbalance that, the other thing in Blues that Blues will have accounted for is that anyone they sell, let's say JJ for 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 million, that gets booked onto the accounts as a single one-off payment, even though it might come in over several years with add-ons. So, it's the headline of Blues have spent 25-30 million, and it's all, therefore that's a 25-30 million loss on these accounts, is not accurate. It will be interesting to see when the accounts do come out exactly where that balance is. And the way to offset losses is to drive revenue, isn't it? And the one thing that we both picked out of that Tom Wagner video was the plans for driving revenue. I think he said they scraped 20 million last season. He wants to double that, and then they've got strategies to do that. Which he spoke about the deal they've made for page impressions to drive revenue. So that'll be all their sort of website and social media and things like that. So it's not like they're sticking their head in their sand and they're just going headlong for the Premier League in a way a previous regime has done. There are strategies in place. Now, are they rolling the dice? I personally feel that they are rolling the dice. Are they doing it blindly and hoping for a double six 3 times in a row? No, I don't think they are.
Yeah, you've got to think as well on that video that Wagner gave, and going back to April, of the stadium. The new stadium Sports Quarter is going to be a game changer, and Stansfield with a 7-year contract could be around to see that at Blues. So that's going to be something that's going to have non-sporting events, concerts, all that sort of things as well. Going to drive enormous revenue for Birmingham City. The hotel that could be there, the entertainment or entertainment as Tom Wagner called it. All those things are going to hopefully go back into the club and buy players for this club. So that's going to be huge. And if the money, that's the way you do it, isn't it? It feels like a really, really solid plan they've got. And the potential with this city is quite clearly there. So I feel still quite confident in it. And if we're saying that they're going to, people are saying they're gambling on getting promotion to the Premier League back to back potentially. I genuinely think that if Blues do get promoted this season, then they will have a chance of going straight up because they've signed championship quality players. If you look at the centre back pairing of Christoph Klara and Christian Bielik, that's a good championship centre back pairing in my eyes. So I think it's there. Peck's a good championship midfielder. We've seen that. Iwata has played Champions League football. Mark Leonard, we know he's growing all the time, becoming a better player all the time. Could definitely step up, we think, in a year or two. The quality is already there. They only need to fine tune a little bit next summer, and they would have a squad that could compete at that level. Yeah,
indeed. Which brings us to the next 5 fixtures. Obviously, it's Wrexham at home on Monday. What I'm going to term the Hollywood Bowl. Just show a bit of American influence there. Then it's Rotherham away, Peterborough at home, Huddersfield at home, and Charlton away. That really is a demanding set of fixtures, and it actually puts quite a lot of pressure on Blues, because if Wrexham, Peterborough, or Huddersfield were to come to St Andrews and win, that really does set the cat amongst the pigeons, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember when the fixtures came out in June. I looked at these 5 fixtures and thought that's where we're going to really see what this Blues team is all about and how good the recruitment has been. You always see where you're after 10 games. Well, after these 5, we'll be at 9. We should have been at 10, but for the international break, others will be at 10. So we'll know how good Blues are. If Blues can get through these 5 games with a really solid points return and be top 2 at 10 games or at 9 games, then this team won't have peaked by then. Given all the players that have come in, all the movement in the transfer market, this team won't have peaked by then. So, it leads you kind of thinking, what could they do in the next 10 games? It could be even better. The longer this season goes on for Birmingham City, it is going to get better because the teething problems should iron themselves out.
Yeah, indeed. Some interesting or contrasting fixtures there as well. Peterborough and Huddersfield do like to have the ball a lot. You know, they're mid-50s in terms of their percentages. Obviously, you've spoken at Blues being upwards at 69, did you say?
68, yeah.
68%. And Wrexham, you know, the other big hitters, you know, I think they're down at 39% in terms of their ball possession as well. So, you know, a bit of everything for Chris Davies to get his teeth stuck into. So, yeah, I think if they can avoid defeat in all of them, then, you know, that obviously really does lay down a marker. But if Peterborough and Huddersfield do come to St Andrews and get a win, that really does. I think they will scent blood. And it's almost at this stage of the season, you're almost thinking, let's just get the results and worry about the performances when the fire isn't quite so hot, sort of thing. So, and normally, you know, at games 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's all about building performances, but this feels like results are more important than anything. Just brings us, I think, the international break could see the Cambridge United game moved potentially. I think that's the one clash. So, like the international break that's just going, Blues will have an EFL Trophy game, which will probably go ahead. You would assume against Shrewsbury, but then it's the Cambridge United game, October the 12th, maybe something like that, or which you would expect Blues to have the 4 call-ups again. So that could potentially be the one that goes. Alex, any other business?
No. What are we thinking about Wrexham, Brian? Like you just said, they've only had 38% possession, probably quite different to what they were last year when they're in League Two, because they were more of a dominant team there. I've been looking at them recently, playing a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2. I'm not sure which side of the fence you sit on with that one. Decent forwards, a decent midfield. Got Ollie Rathbone, who was at Rotherham in the Championship last year. George Dobson, who was at Charlton, their captain last year as well. And also Ollie Lee, who's kind of come up with them. So they've got a good midfield. But it does very much look like a counter-attacking Wrexham team that is going to rely on clean sheets. The last 4 League One games have ended with clean sheets. So I think Blues will. This is like the acid test. I think a team that's going to come to St Andrews with quality and sit back and defend and counter-attack, who have done it well in the opening weeks of the season. It'll be a real statement if Blues go and beat them.
Yeah, indeed. I think the guy that sort of fired them up the leagues, Paul Mullins, hadn't played that much this season, and he came back in for their EFL Trophy game against Salford, and he scored a very good goal, didn't he? So he's clearly back in the sort of swing of things. I think Phil Parkinson made almost. I think he changed the whole team for that game actually. So 11 changes. So they've got strength in depth there as well. Yeah, I mean, listen, you go into every Birmingham City game expecting them to win, don't you? And this one's no different. Yes, it'll have high profile. It still blows my mind that somebody in California might be interested in the outcome of Birmingham City versus Wrexham. Or people in the US will be paying attention to this figure, but that's the world we live in now, and it's quite a fun world, and it's it's Tom Brady and Ryan Reynolds' world, isn't it? So yeah, it's going to be a fun evening, hopefully. And what I would say again is Blues have already sold this out. We're looking at another 27,000 people for a Monday night League One fixture. The product that Knighthead have created blows my mind. It's just incredible. You think that teams that have gone down were going to be having to pay spectators to come almost, but Knighthead have they've totally, what's the word, reinvented Birmingham City and made it cool to be a Birmingham City fan again, haven't they? And it's fun watching Blues win, and thankfully they managed to do that quite a lot so far this season, and I'd love to see them do it again next Monday. Yeah,
I'm sure they've got a shout at that, Brian. I think that clears everything today.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, all that remains is to bid our listeners and viewers a keep right on from both of us.
Thank you.